Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unraveling a biological story that's just massive in scale. We're talking billions of years in the making, with implications so profound, it's literally about the origin of complex life itself. Okay, let's dive into this.
So here is the central microscopic mystery we're going to solve today. When you think about the microscopic world, you probably picture this ruthless dog-eat-dog battle for survival, right? Normally, if a larger cell swallows a smaller one, well, it's game over for the little guy. It's lunch. But at one absolutely critical juncture in Earth's history, two competing organisms collided, and somehow they actually avoided destroying each other. How does that happen? Let's find out. Now, I want you to zoom all the way out with me. Picture Earth. Billions of years ago. It was a harsh, totally unrecognizable place. The oceans and sediment were absolutely teeming with countless microorganisms, all locked in this desperate, endless struggle for energy. It was a completely alien world, and life forms were scraping by in radically different ways.
Part 1. An ancient microscopic encounter.
Let's meet the main characters of this evolutionary saga. Basically, we have two very different survival strategies going head-to-head here. On one side, you've got microorganisms that were just barely scraping by. They lived in these really oxygen-poor environments, making energy super slowly by fermenting organic compounds. Kind of a tough life. But on the flip side, evolution had cooked up something incredible. There were these bacteria that had figured out how to use oxygen to extract massive, explosive amounts of energy from nutrients. A real game changer. Pointing to the cast of characters here, our ancestral host cell, the fermenter, belonged to an archaea lineage. Now, scientists are still actively investigating exactly who this was, but current evidence links it pretty closely to what we call Asgard archaea. And our other player, the ancestral symbiont that could harness all that oxygen, that was a bacterium from the alpha proteobacterial lineage. So the key takeaway here is we've got two fundamentally different organisms right on a collision course.
Section 2. The struggle for survival.
Okay, so when these two finally met, it was anything but a peaceful handshake. You know, this story gets oversimplified a lot. We're often told this nice little tale where a large cell just elegantly engulfs a smaller one, almost like a modern immune cell does today. But actually, no, their earliest relationship was highly likely a brutal predator-prey dynamic. The ancestral host almost certainly looked at this energy-packed bacterium and just saw food. Meanwhile, the bacterium is literally fighting for its life, struggling to avoid getting digested while trapped inside the host. Just a super tense microscopic standoff.
Section 3. A mutually beneficial trade. So how do we get from a literal life-or-death struggle to the cells that make up your body right now? Well, eventually, the brutal force of natural selection favored a biological trade-off instead of mutual destruction. And this brilliantly illustrates the turning point. Both organisms, in an evolutionary sense, realized they were way better off together than apart. The bacterium acted like an incredibly efficient power plant, providing aerobic energy metabolism and turning oxygen into pure biological power. And in return, the host cell offered up a safe haven, protection from the crazy environment outside, and a nice steady supply of reliable nutrients.
If we look at the timeline, you'll see this definitely wasn't some overnight success. We kick off with that initial encounter, which researchers note might have just been a loose metabolic partnership at first, even before they got physically tangled up. Then, over literally hundreds of millions of years, that progressed into a temporary association just to survive. And finally, as things got serious and the host gained this unprecedented burst of cellular energy, the symbiont just stopped trying to leave. It locked in as an irreversible evolutionary partnership.
But here's the thing, just having mutual benefits isn't enough to survive deep evolutionary time. For this shared destiny to last, they had to totally sync up. Whenever the host cell divided, the internal symbiote had to divide exactly in step. If you look at the sequence on the slide, you can see just how precise this had to be. Step 1, the host divides. Step 2, the internal symbiote divides. And step 3, every single new daughter cell inherits its own tiny population of what we now call mitochondria. They had to faithfully pass this partnership down to every single new generation, no exceptions.
Section 4. The genomic takeover. All right, we're going to zoom in even further now, down to the molecular level. To fully grasp the scale of what happened next, we really need a baseline. So a free-living bacterium, it is completely independent. To survive out in the wild, it carries thousands of genes. It needs every single one of them to grab nutrients, build its own proteins, react to the environment, copy its DNA, and reproduce. It is a completely self-sufficient biological machine, the whole shebang. But once our ancestral bacterium became a permanent indoor resident inside the host, it suddenly didn't need all those extra tools. The functions the host was now providing, The bacterium just let them go. Some genes were lost entirely, but a whole bunch of others went through this mind-blowing process called endosymbiotic gene transfer, or EGT. Basically, this is where the bacterium's genes were literally transferred out of its own DNA and stitched directly into the host cell's nuclear genome.
Which brings us to this absolutely staggering number, 37. After starting out with thousands of genes, today, the human mitochondrial genome holds a mere 37 genes. Just 37! 13 of those are dedicated to making proteins for oxidative phosphorylation, which is the actual energy production part, and the rest just make RNAs needed to build those proteins. And that is literally all that's left of their original genetic independence.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the visual contrast. Do you see that tiny sliver representing those 37 genes? Now compare that to the massive chunk on the rest of the chart. Modern mitochondria actually contain way over 1,000 functional proteins. So where on earth do they all come from? Well, the overwhelming majority are now encoded by the host's nuclear genes. They get synthesized out in the host's cytosol, and then they're specially imported all the way back into the mitochondria. The host just completely took over the manufacturing process.
Section 5. The legacy inside us.
Let's pull back from the microscopic world for a second and look at how this ancient genomic reshuffling affects you and me today. I mean, this was a total transformation. The bacterium basically handed over its genome and totally lost its genetic independence. Meanwhile, the host cells seized complete control of mitochondrial growth, division, and metabolism. Today, modern mitochondria absolutely cannot survive outside the cell. Zero chance. And on the flip side, nearly all eukaryotic cells, the complex ones that make up plants, animals, and, us, are completely dependent on mitochondria just to function. It evolved from simple roommates to an inseparably intertwined biological system. There's this profound quote straight from the source material that captures this paradox perfectly. Read it with me. Mitochondria are no longer independent bacteria, nor have they disappeared completely into the nucleus. I mean, wow. Think about that. What looks like a single, unified cell under a microscope today is actually a chimera. It's the product of two completely distinct evolutionary lineages whose genomes have been woven together over billions of years. I want to leave you with this final crazy thought. Just look at your hands for a second. The energy that's allowing your eyes to see this screen, the energy powering the muscles in your hands, the energy firing the neurons in your brain right at this very second, it is all generated by the descendants of that ancient bacterium. Still living, still dividing, and still working tirelessly inside your cells. You are not just a single organism. You are literally a walking, breathing monument to an ancient microscopic alliance. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other silent partnerships are shaping the future of life as we speak?